David, welcome to Battle Buddies. I don't know why I'm welcoming you. This is your show as much as it is mine, but it's our inaugural episode. And I got to be honest with you, I have lost most of my Republican friends. I don't know if you've lost most of your Democratic friends, but I'm going to keep you close forever, for as long as I can, at least, for as long as you'll have me, because you're one of these rare conservatives. I'm sorry for the pejorative, but you argue in good faith. You actually believe what you say, even when you're wrong. And I'm sure. Well,
You always let me know when I'm wrong, which I appreciate.
same,
And
same.
so this is how it started. I was doing a book tour, and I got the Ken Harbaugh show invitation, and we sat there and we talked, and you came. I mean, I was like, wow, this guy. When it came to the book, it was, a great interview and everything was great. When it came to politics, he's like, hey, I do a second show and I get a little bit more into the weeds on politics. Would you like to do that? I'm like, sure, Ken, this was fun. And it was like, I mean, you were shot out of a cannon. And I was like, I love this guy. I love this guy. And I said, hey, I do a show. Would you come on it? And you're like, sure. And I'm like, is this guy a flake, or is he like, let's do lunch? And I'm at, Starbucks for 3 hours and you don't show up. You have done my show every single week. And if you're missing a show, it's because you're in Ukraine fighting Putin, but you've never ever bailed. And I was like, you know what? I respect that. I appreciate that. It really touches my heart. So I love this. I'm blessed that you wanted me here.
Well, I describe those 20 minutes a week to some of my more ardent progressive followers as my community service.
That's your penance for whatever crimes you committed in a previous life. I get it.
I also think we do not make enough of an effort, we broadly speaking, people in the media, to reach across, to try to convince people who think differently from us, because honestly, that's not where the money is. The money is in rage baiting folks, right? The money is in telling people what they want to hear and making them more angry about it. So they'll go buy whatever is being advertised on your show. But that, I think, is a betrayal of our responsibility. It's a betrayal of the public trust. We have a duty, and I think the reason you and I get along so well is because we are steeped in that sense of duty. We both have the military background, and as people with microphones, we have a duty to tell the truth and to try to communicate to people who think differently than us.
And I think we have a duty to admit when we're wrong.
Yeah.
And so, I'm coming from this, as a recovering neocon, and, during the Iraq War, I heard all of these things stated about what are we doing? How's the policy going? And I defended the talking point, and I ignored the truth. And so in that gestation, in that growth, I can now look at things and say, well, what's the worst thing about admitting that you're wrong about something? I mean, honestly, it's like, I want to be correct. And if I'm not going to pronounce your name, Harbaugh, if your name is Harbaugh, right? I mean, like, at some point, I'm going to take a stab at it on my own. And once you correct me that that's not your name, if I continue to repeat that, obviously, I'm trying to upset you. So my whole thing is that if you can come at it with clean hands, if you can be honest and look someone in the eye and say, I disagree, I love you. People always they email me like, what's up with Ken and you? Like, what's your deal? He's a Navy guy. He's an aviator. I'm like, he's a father. He's a husband. He's a good man. He's a good guy. I like him. Do I agree on anything? It's maybe 20, 15%, 20%. But I respect someone who's not afraid to say, I disagree. And it used to be that we would go out and eat chicken wings after that. And today we just retreat. So I love it.
Well, we picked a hell of a week to kick off because the country once again is being torn apart, and I feel like we can set an example here, because I know my instinct is because I just came back from Minneapolis. I feel their pain. I spent time with them, and one of the things I am honestly trying to understand is what appears to me and to folks on air quotes my side to be a dramatic pivot on the part of genuine conservatives from skepticism of the government, doubt about the exercise of force by the federal government. This whole live free or die ethos has morphed into comply immediately without question or die. It's obey or die from the same people who 10 minutes ago were flying the don't tread on me flags. How do we get here? How do we get here? And I know you're going to challenge my framing. Please do. What am I getting wrong?
I mean, honestly, okay, so let's just take the last 48 hours before this horrible situation in Minneapolis. First of all, anytime someone dies, it's a horrible situation. So there is a camp out there that says they know what they were getting into when they bought their plane ticket, and the plane crashed. That's not helpful. It's cruel, and it doesn't make any sense. We don't want anyone to die, right? And no one should be hurt. But we had a candlelight vigil on the steps of the Capitol building, and January 6th, on the anniversary of January 6th, this was an important talking point to Democrats. The country wants to move forward. We're going to bring you right back to a day when law enforcement wasn't respected. And we've had many talks about January 6th. And I will tell you that law enforcement was not respected on January 6th. There were people that disregarded, they didn't listen, and they did whatever they could to achieve whatever twisted objective they had. And I will call those people idiots, felons, whatever name you want to call it, a riot, an insurrection. It doesn't matter to me at this point. The narrative has been written. I'm not a part of that group. I don't want to hang out with people that want to break things and hurt cops. But you can't do the mental gymnastics to go from, the rule of law and cops are cops and we listen to cops and they're the heroes that walk amongst us to some of this language we're hearing about ICE. It's very clear why ICE are wearing masks. And I think it's gotten to the point where I understand the talking point. I understand the base. There are lunatics in the right. There are lunatics that support Trump. And I do my best to not be apologist for those lunatics. But your lunatics on the left and your lunatics that are in the Democrat Party are repeating narratives and talking points that I just, at this point, it's not reasonable to say, why are these people not wanting to be identified? We've seen why they don't want to be identified. We know what is happening to some of these individuals in their hometowns, their lives. There's a real reason that if you're just a normal person obeying the law, you're going to be targeted for doing your job. And that's not the America we want either. It's not the America that we want to destroy families or arrest people on roofs or take out the single mom that's a waitress. But it's also not the America where an officer tells you, can I see your license and registration? Please step out of the car. We have a misunderstanding, and you rev an engine or you escalate. That's not a healthy republic either.
Yeah, I guess I have to make the distinction, and I hope we both would, between what law enforcement was doing on January 6th, defending the people it was tasked with protecting from a murderous mob that was chanting for the execution of the vice president and trying to get at members of Congress to kill them, and what ICE is doing. It seems categorically different. The hero cops on January 6th, I don't think have much in common with the cops that are, or the ICE agents that are dragging moms out of minivans. I don't think it's a fair comparison. And I think folks on my side would point out that there isn't a single cop in Minneapolis who is masking their face because they're not ashamed of what they're doing. They stand by their mission. They stand by the slogan to serve and protect, and they don't have to cover their faces because what they're doing is not enraging the community that they've descended upon. We didn't used to have secret police in this country. It seems like overnight we now do.
Well, why would you use that term secret police? What's secret about what they're doing?
Their identities.
Okay, so when I was deployed, I was ordered to cover my face. It was a part of our standard operating procedure, and it was done for obvious reasons.
That's telling.
Right?
It feels like an occupying force.
No, I think it's telling that we have agencies that are literally doxing federal agents for doing their job. Now, you can have an artful, thoughtful point of view on what you think federal law enforcement is doing. But at their core, if you asked a federal law enforcer, these are our sons and daughters, like every other cop is our son and daughter, our firefighters, our law enforcement, public teachers, everyone. If you ask these individuals what you're doing, they will tell you that they're there to protect. They're there to enforce the law. Some of them don't want to be deployed to Minneapolis or Los Angeles or New Orleans or the places that they're going to. But at their core, they truly believe in their mission and they truly believe in what they're doing. Furthermore, if there weren't policies that existed for 4 years, there would be no necessity for these people. If the border were secure and you didn't have illegal immigrants running around the country, and Minneapolis is at the very top of this. There is a lot of fraud, waste. There are some really bad people out there. So if we are going to differentiate between the mom in a minivan, which, by the way, if you were drunk, if you had methamphetamines in your car, mom in the minivan, or it doesn't really matter what your demographic is or if you're a mom or not a mom, I'm going to pull you out of your minivan. You're in violation. So if I have an illegal immigrant who's got their kids in their car and you don't have a legal license, you don't have insurance, and you're illegal, the law is the law, and we know that. But if you want to differentiate between illegal immigrants and criminals, I would expect Democrats to be more vocal and more transparent about the illegals that are the rapists and the child traffickers. But this line of sanctuary, Ken, it sounds like 1860 South Carolina, when states are saying your federal laws don't apply to me. I don't want white and black kids in school.
I think the parallel holds up in other ways too. When you say the law is the law, I don't think you really mean it, because I can point to any number of laws throughout American history that you would have fought against. I'm thinking about, speaking of 1860s South Carolina, the Fugitive Slave Act.
Horrible.
Like, if
that was before, that
okay,
was Miller
but
Fillmore
the idea
from Buffalo,
that just because something is legal means we have to accept its brutal enforcement. I mean, any number of historical examples, and I think we're going to look back on this moment with the same degree of moral clarity that we now look back on the Fugitive Slave Act.
But the Republican
just
Party,
because someone is here illegally doesn't mean they're a meth addict, doesn't mean they're a rapist, doesn't mean they should be dragged out of their minivan. I agree with you. If you're a mom driving drunk with your kids in the car, you should be arrested. But if you're a mom who came here for a better life and are dropping your kids off at daycare, there's a better time to enforce America's immigration law, which I would argue at this point has become, it's on the same moral continuum now as the Fugitive Slave Act. And to your original point that you talk to these ICE agents and they really want to help the communities, they really do want to serve and protect, I think their behavior belies that. When you looked at what happened in that street, 34th and Portland in Minneapolis, I was there 2 days ago, where the officer who shot Renee Good walked away, and we're not live, so I can get away with saying it here. He called her a fucking bitch. That is not the sentiment of someone who signed up to serve and protect. And then when his fellow officers helped him flee the scene and didn't provide aid to the victim, this is not indicative of a police force that is there to help the community. It feels like they almost take pride in brutalizing the community, especially when you look at the comments of some of these ICE agents. There was the woman shot, I believe it was in Chicago, 5 times, and the agents are caught on tape in the car joking about it, bragging about it. That is not indicative of a law enforcement force that is there to help people.
Well, look, I mean, I can't defend crude, piggish behavior any more than you can defend 40% of your political party that's high-fiving after Charlie Kirk is bleeding out of his jugular.
I don't know anybody. I know a lot of Dems. Everyone I know.
Okay, you know what? I won't say. I won't put a hyperbolic percentage on it. Here's what I will say: a lot of people that are protesting anti-ICE are saying some really reprehensible, irresponsible, indefensible things, and I don't hold you accountable, nor should you hold me accountable for people that are on my side that are ridiculous. I will tell you that I will stand my ground every time, and not tolerate high-fiving and chest bumping. I have called people that have tried to kill me in a combat zone some really horrible things because your adrenaline's pumping and you're angry. I get that. This officer, I believe, is the same guy that got drugged like 300 feet, had some
30 stitches. Yeah.
30 stitches. So look, I mean, I'm thinking he's thinking, here we go again. Here's the take. The takeaway is that Dred Scott, fugitive slave, slavery, Jim Crow laws, polling taxes, literacy, tests for when the court in the modern era is looking at these cases, they can judge from the federal bench, state bench, and the Supreme Court of the United States what they deem to be constitutional and unconstitutional. There are times I agree, and there's times I disagree. We're going to find out about tariffs coming up. We're going to find out about trans sports and all these other things. The solution can never be a January 6th guy in a Viking outfit solution. Right. I think we can all agree that the sin of January 6th is that you are taking it upon yourself to change the outcome of an election or change the outcome of a system. When rational men and women are upset about something in a democratic republic, in a representative democracy, we go to our representatives, we try to change the law. Democrats with the U.S. Code and on immigration have had many attempts to take that low-hanging fruit and say, adjust it, change it, do something about it. Trump is trying to do that with naturalization and if a child is born on soil, is he touching home base? Is he a citizen? That's actually being done through the channel. Now, you might disagree with the origin or the nexus of his thought process, but that's how it's done. What can't ever be tolerated is an NGO or a nonprofit that is fundraising and spending money for the sole purpose because that's essentially what the Proud Boys were doing. What the Proud Boys were doing was raising money, gathering funds, and paying people to do something on their behalf to push their will on the system on January 6th. That's what the militias were doing. And we were very careful to be articulate and clear about the radicalization of white men in the country. And we heard that from 21 until 25. I think we need to be a little bit more vocal about the radicalization of other people in our culture that are fomenting violence and talking about what's in the hearts and minds of federal law enforcement. I don't think that's responsible, and I don't think that makes us better and brings us together.
Well, David, you get the last word. I got the first word. We'll flip it next week. You bring the topic and take the gloves off.
You got it. Thank you, Ken.